Hi, I'm going to show you how to make the inset of the bodice, how to sew the apex of the inset. I'm going to take my 2-inch bias cut square and my pattern piece. I'm going to first of all find the center of my square, and I just do that by take my ruler and draw a dot where the center would be, and that would be right about here. Okay, then I take the wrong side of my fabric and I have to draw my sewing lines. My seam allowance for this pattern is 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to sketch in my sewing line so I have a guide to sew. And I'm going to do it on each side of the apex of the bodice. And where this crosses, this X, I have to make sure that I match that with the center of my bias square on the right side of the fabric. So this is the right side, and I'm putting the center of my bias square right there. Now, once I get the bias square attached to the right side of my pattern piece, I turn over the pattern piece and I'm going to sew this line. So now I go to the machine. I'm going to follow my marks exactly. Now be careful when you get to the apex. You want to just go to that point. In fact, you can lift it up sometimes and you can see that the needle's in that point. Then I turn my fabric. But first, I'm going to back stitch there one stitch so that I reinforce that. And I'm going to turn it and go the other way. Whoops. And I'm going to back stitch a little bit to end that. Next, I'm going to cut and trim what I've just sewn. This is the wrong side. This is what I just sewed. I'm going to turn it over and I'm going to cut it right to that apex. And I'm going to go right up to that stitching line, right up to it, just like that. Okay, now I have this opening. Now I take this and I turn it to the other side. Now this is the wrong side of the fabric, and I'm now pulling this through to the wrong side like this. Now I take it to the ironing board and I would press it. I just came from the ironing board pressing my pattern piece. This is the right side. You can see that I pressed the bias strip to the wrong side of the fabric. Now I'm going to attach my other pattern piece that's going to be my inset. And the way that I do this is I make sure that my bias strip is up and into the seam allowance. I don't want it to show through on the good side. Now I'm going to pin my two pieces together. I have the two pattern pieces pinned together, and I always check them on the correct side to make sure that you don't see any of the biased fabric coming through. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take this to the sewing machine and follow the stitching that I did before. When I get to the apex, it's a little tricky. You've got to make sure that the fold at the apex does not get caught in a stitch. I'm at my apex, and I'm going to sort of turn this fabric away so it doesn't get caught in my stitching, and sew the other side. Now, I can go back and reinforce that apex by back stitching. I just completed sewing my apex of my insert, and now I'm going to take out the pins and I'm going to turn it over to see how I did, and it looks like it came out perfectly. Now That is how you do the apex to the insert of the bodice.